Good evening, everyone. We are assembled here for our June 10th Committee of the Whole, and we are going to resume from a session that was begun earlier this evening, where we had an in-camera discussion related to land and personnel matters, and we are back now in public session. So welcome, everyone. We've got a really full gallery. It's great to see. So just opening my agenda here. I'm going to leave people a second to get settled. Okay. All right. So we'll begin with any items to add to the agenda. And I believe we had one previously added. Councillor Brent Sampson, you wanted to add one. Did you want to bring that up? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll add that. It was sent around an email. If that's okay. It was regarding making contact with Canada Post about some service interruptions.
Perfect. Thank you. So we'll add the item regarding Canada Post. Any further additions to the agenda? Oh, I will note one change in the agenda that the CAO and I discussed because we are still awaiting final approval of our budget. We are thinking to remove Section 12, the unfinished business. So the grant requests from the River Bourgeois Community Services Society, Richmond River Routes, and Lennox Place permitting fees. Sorry, struggling with my words there. We'll be removing those and popping them onto a future either special council or regular agenda. So is everyone okay with the removal of those items?
Just 12? What about...
They've been already deferred.
Was it just 12 though? No, there's some of
11 under action required. You have a couple.
Yeah, that's right. The correspondence action required.
Those are new ones that have yet to be deferred, though.
Right.
Okay.
So we'll
The
just
other
discuss
ones
them and
have
defer.
already-
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Section 12 on the unfinished business have been deferred, or will be deferred, have been deferred and will be removed from the agenda. So we have one addition, one removal. Any further changes to the agenda? Okay. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll move the approval of the amended agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Melanie Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Any further discussion on the agenda? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. The next item is the review of the minutes from May 13th, 2024. They've been provided in your package. If there are no errors or omissions, I'll ask for a motion to approve, please.
I'll move the approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion on the minutes? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion is carried. All right, the next item on the agenda is the good part. We get to hear from members of the public regarding several items this evening. The first up is Terry Smith with Destination Cape Breton regarding their 2024-2027 strategy. So welcome back, Mr. Smith. Great to have you. Please take a seat, and your presentation should be loaded up there, I think. And so you'll just need to press the red button, and that'll light your mic up.
Great. Well, it's great to be back, and thank you for having me. I'm going to talk about our new strategy, and but before I do that, I just use this, do I? Here we go. I just wanted to give you a quick update on marketing levy issues. So, as approved by the 5 municipalities, the 3% rate came into effect for all fixed roof accommodations January 1st of this year. We have a new reporting platform that has been rolled out called Check-in Analytics that all accommodations are required to use now. Just a recent development, there has been an amendment to the provincial legislation regarding levies that is going to require all of the platforms, Airbnb, Vrbo, Expedia, and so forth. They will have to do the collection and remitting of the levies through their platforms to the municipalities. There's a few steps that have to be jumped through and in order to make that happen, but I've been in touch with your CAO and Chief Financial Officer about that, so more to come on that, but that will make things a lot easier for especially smaller operators. And we have a levy education position being established, something that we talked about before the pandemic that we had to put on hold, but we're working on bringing that back again. So, and I wanted to show you a little bit about 2023 results. So the vast majority of what we do marketing-wise is directing people to our website. So one of the things that we look at in terms of top-line results is traffic to our website. As you can see, this is the past 5 years. It was on a steady incline. In 2022, we hit a record 1.4 million sessions to our site. Last year, we changed our strategy a little bit. We thought that some of those 1.4 million were a little bit maybe tire kickers, not as quality of traffic as we'd want. So we changed our strategy. It was still our second best year, just shy of 1.2 million sessions. But one of the things that we look at is clicks from our website to tourism operator websites, because that tells us that people are serious in their travel planning. They were up 120%. And just so you know, so far this year, our traffic is pacing ahead of last year, but clicks to operator websites are up another 80%. So it's quality traffic that we're getting to the site. In terms of converting to visits, one of the main things we look at is registered room nights sold. Last year, we were just 1% under where we were in 2022. And we were actually, from January to June, we were pacing about 13% ahead. The summer was challenging. It was a bit soft, and that wasn't just us. It was right across the region. And partly, there's a few different reasons, but one of the reasons were when the wildfires happened on the mainland, and then again the floods had a similar effect. The media coverage, it was all saying like Nova Scotia wildfires, and that was creating the perception among a lot of visitors that this is affecting the whole province. And we were hearing from some accommodation operators that they were getting cancellations, even though that was like late May, early June. They were getting cancellations in August for something that was happening hours away from us. So the perception is it's not rational, but that was the effect. The other thing that happened was we had the wettest summer on record for most of Cape Breton.
I remember.
Yeah, so that affects people that are nearer by. You know, if you're in Halifax and you're planning to come here for the weekend, you see the forecast and you think, maybe I'll do that another time. And the final thing is just the cost of living, increasing the inflation rates and interest rates and things like that eat into people's disposable income, and that affects what they can spend on travel. I would note, though, we have a new research tool now. It's through Destination Canada. But according to this tool, they said our tourism spending was up. So even though the visitation was down a little bit, spending was up. So that was a silver lining there. So, strategy. Just a few things in terms of the context. We always look at what the economists are saying. They're projecting right now for our Canada economy that it's slow growth for this year. It's going to start to get a little bit better in the second half of this year, so the summer and into the fall, but then being steadier in 2025 and 2026. U.S. will do a little bit better. And that's just a quote from Destination Canada that basically says what I was just saying, that we experienced strong economic headwinds from inflation and higher interest rates will continue to impact disposable incomes in 2024. We just completed community meetings with tourism operators around the island, including one in Discoos and one in St. Peter's. And I asked operators there, how are your bookings looking? And it was all over the map. So I think, if we can match what we did last year, we'll be doing good, but we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of uncertainty. One of the themes that I guess two themes that are in our new strategy are really investing in digital automation. That's something, using AI and tools and things like that. That's something that we're leaning into. But at the same time, it's really important for us to not lose sight of the fact that a big part of our brand as Cape Breton Island is our people, our hospitality. So we have to also accentuate that human touch, real human connection, and that's built into our strategy as well. Now it's really small on the screen, but tourism employment in Nova Scotia. So we've had, coming out of the pandemic, significant workforce shortages. I won't go through all of this, but in a nutshell, basically, most of the industry has recovered in terms of employment. The one area where there's a gap is in food and beverage. Across the province, it's almost 4,000 positions that we're short right now compared to pre-pandemic. And CBU did some research the past year of operators on the island, and the number one unfilled position on the island is cooks. And I was talking to Robin Cotton with Seal Cove in Louisdale, and he had to get somebody to come here through immigration. So that's what we have to resort to address this problem. So still a challenge in that area. Just a few highlights. So we worked with the partnership with Cape Smoky and the CBU and a few other partners on an economic impact assessment for the tourism industry this past year. The partnership really took the lead on this. And one of the things that the consultants did within this report was they prepared scenarios in terms of future growth. Like if you do this, this will be the economic result. And there's three of the scenarios that they looked at that we said, okay, these can have really strong returns, so we want to focus on them. One is extending the length of stay. So right now, the length of stay on Cape Breton Island, according to the most recent Tourism Nova Scotia stats, is 4.4 days. They said if we can extend that by 1 day, that would equate to $125 million per year in extra economic impact. Growing year-round tourism, if we can increase tourism between November and April by 12%, that would equate to $70 million. And attracting high-value visitors, people that will spend a little bit more. If we increase the average visitor spend by 10%, $58 million. So we looked at that research and we said, okay, that gives us some solid information upon which to build our plan for growing our industry. So we have 6 goals, and 3 of them are directly related to that study. So the goals are enhance the brand as a bucket list destination, one of the top islands in the world, responsibly grow visitation, emphasizing shoulder and winter seasons, increase the average length of stay by 1 day, increase average visitor spend by 10%, elevate the quality of the visitor experience, and become recognized as a truly sustainable and inclusive destination. So I'm just going to give you a couple of highlights from the strategy related to each one of those goals. But enhancing the brand, we have a new campaign. You may have seen it. I don't know if you've been watching the news and on Live at 5 or News at 6 particularly. You might see our TV ad. But it's all focused on those authentic connections with the island, its culture, and its people. So we're getting solid reviews on that. So we're pleased with what it looks like, and it's all about smiles, like you're seeing there in that photo. Concierge network. So this is one thing that we're building towards. We're working with our visitor information centers around the island, and we're really trying to support them more. We used to. This goes back probably 7 or 8 years, but our organization used to play a stronger role in managing and supporting visitor information centers. We got paid a good chunk of change by the province to do so, so we couldn't do that anymore. But we have some more resources. We feel that these folks are key folks in terms of making that human connection, but helping people learn what there is to do in the area and hopefully stay longer. So we're investing more into those folks. And official ambassador program. So Cape Breton University created Cape Breton Island Ambassador micro-credential. It's a fancy word, but it's an online course that you can take. It takes about an hour. It depends upon, you can go at your own pace, but it takes roughly about an hour. But they've had quite a few people go through this, and we're talking to them about building this into a program, like a network of volunteers across the island that we could mobilize in some way to help us, again, promote that human connection, but play a role in some way. Growing year-round visitation. So with the marketing levy expanding, a big chunk of that will be invested into our marketing, of course. So we're expanding our marketing program, mainly more advertising, primarily digital advertising, and the creation of more content. So you will see us capturing more photography, more videos, and so forth, developing more blog posts, more itineraries, things like that on our website. We will also have an increased events focus. Events can play a significant role in attracting visitors in our shoulder and winter seasons in particular. So we'll be trying to do both attracting events, but also working with existing events to see how they might be able to grow and expand. For example, I've had some discussions about the Lobster Fest in St. Peter's, and I've planted in their minds, maybe that could be bigger. Maybe it could include, the whole South Coast. But anyway, these are just preliminary things, but we have to start dreaming and looking at these things. Continuing to develop winter, spring, and fall. Right now, you can see a photo there of the Grand River Falls, but we have waterfall season that we've started a couple of years ago, and that's going on right now. We're seeing an increase, and we have an app for that, increase in app downloads and scans. When you get the app, there's signs at all of these waterfalls that you go and you scan, and you can win a getaway. And increasing air access, so we're working closely with the Sydney Airport in terms of increasing air access into there, but we're also talking to the folks at the Alan J. McCacken Airport. We think there could be potential for a seasonal commercial route, even if it was one day a week, to go into there. So that's something that we're going to look at building a business case with the airport for. Increasing length of stay. One of the things that happens with Cape Breton is people get the idea, and there's a number of reasons why everybody talks about the Cabot Trail. They think that they can come to the island, do the west side of the trail one day, the east side the next day, and then they're off somewhere else. And so we've been trying, but we've got to do more to combat that with week-long stay messaging. For example, there's many tour operators out there that have itineraries that could be Nova Scotia itinerary or Maritimes itinerary, and they will, have maybe one night, maybe 2 nights in Cape Breton, and we're telling them you're missing an awful lot of this destination. So we're working on that. Focusing on curating as many events around the island as possible. That was one of the things we did in all these community meetings. So our visitors love to go to events where they can rub shoulders with locals. They want to almost feel like they're a local when they're here. So whether it's a trivia night or a community dinner, things like that, those are, we might not always think of them as something that visitors might want to do, but they do, and we're going to try to capture as many of those things as possible. Get them spending more money and get them staying longer, hopefully. We have a new mobile app, a travel companion it's called, that will be released in the next couple of weeks. That it's built, it has a little bit of AI generated in there, so it learns people's interests and makes suggestions based on where they are on the island and what they're interested in. The other thing to note about this is that it's all self-compact, so all of the data, when you download the app, you have all of the data, so it will work regardless if there's cell service. There's a little bit more functionality when there is cell service, but it will work when there isn't. Increasing the average length of stay. One thing we have to work with communities on evening economies. So there's a tourism consultant that we've brought in here from the U.S. A number of times. Roger Brooks is his name. He's got this stat that 70% of non-accommodation spending happens after 6 p.m. on shopping, dining, and entertainment. And there are many communities in your county too, where things close up a little earlier. And so we've got to look at how do we tackle that? Could people open an hour later in the day to then stay open an hour later? Things like that. It's challenging, especially for people in the restaurant business when they're struggling with staffing. But it's something that we have to work towards. Targeting more high-value guests in our marketing campaigns, as I mentioned, that's one of those areas where the consultants said that has a huge payoff, so we'll be looking at that. And we're looking at a booking engine as well. That won't be this year, but 2025, we'll be incorporating that into our website and into that app I mentioned. Elevating the visitor experience, we work with partners regularly with Tourism Nova Scotia and Parks Canada, supporting the development of new experiences. That's something that will continue. About that food and beverage workforce issue, we're going to put together a task force. Already talked to a few people that we'd like to get involved with that. NSCC, for example. Drew, is it Drew Stevens, yes, Drew Stevens, okay. I know another Drew McIntyre they can use it with all the time. Drew Stevens, yeah. So Drew and I have talked about that, and this is something that we're going to work on, Restaurant Association of Nova Scotia as well, and seeing like what can we reasonably do. Growing marine tourism is another area that we feel there is potential, and we've been working with some of our partners, including St. Peter's Marina, on how we can attract more boaters here, and there's a few infrastructure things that we have to look at, expanding the hours, hopefully, of the St. Peter's Canal, but there could also be, this is a county where there are many places where boaters can go, so we've got to highlight all of those areas. And implementing an investment attraction program. This is something Tyler Mathis and I will be talking about, but we have a need in some communities for new investments, and we have a number of new entrants to the industry who have invested in new accommodations, new restaurants and things in recent years. It's good that we're seeing that, but we need more investment. And I'll just give you an example. In the Marguerite area, they had what used to be the Marguerite Lodge. It was bought by Cabot Links. They've turned it into staff housing. They've also lost another smaller inn that got turned into a private residence. Another smaller inn, just the owners retired, but they live there, so they're closing it. And so Marguerite doesn't have enough bedrooms in their community, and it's in need of new investment and new accommodations. So attracting somebody that can fill that gap. And finally, being sustainable and inclusive. We have an application into ACOA to develop a sustainable tourism plan for the island, and hopefully I'm going to hear on that soon. And working with partners to roll out equity, diversity, and inclusion training initiatives. So things like, for example, we've recently become Rainbow registered to go through a process to be more welcoming to our 2S LGBTQ plus community, and there are about half a dozen operators on the island that have gone through that. Pepperell Place Inn in St. Peter's is one of them, I know, but we'd like to see more operators go through that training. There's also, we've been talking with Nova Scotia Indigenous Tourism and Cape Breton University about rolling out a program for Mi'kmaq cultural training. So that's another initiative. One thing that's happening right now at Dalhousie University, they have an institute that is doing some research on accessibility in tourism, and so they will they have a report coming out soon. So based on what that report finds, we'll take our cue from them and hopefully roll out some things for the industry. And I know that's a lot of information, but happy to take any questions, and you can see the full strategy there, or I can send it through.
Thanks, Terry, so much. Just, I guess, right off the bat, I love the idea of the ambassador program, and I did some poking around on the CBU website. Not super easy to figure out how to register for it. That's one little piece of feedback I would give, because I'd be in it like right away if I could figure that out. So if you can maybe pass on that piece of feedback. But, 100% excited to hear about the concierge network service, because I think the work that you're doing is going to be multiplied exponentially when you increase the number of champions around the island, right? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so questions, councillors, or comments?
Yeah, it's not a question as much as just I found it interesting when you commented on the situation with the wildfires last year, because I had two, just in passing, like anecdotally, two operators in Victoria County that both, said almost the exact same thing. They were surprised at the amount of bookings they had lost based on media coverage and people phoning and saying, no, not coming, kind of thing, because of the fires and nowhere near here, right? And that's really tough, because it's when those operators, it's hard to fight against that.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just so you were, one of the things that we're working on, so let me start. We've talked to the province about this, and we've said, totally understand, like, you've got like an emergency on your hands, but for Tourism Nova Scotia, maybe if their role could be to get more of the message out about where is safe to visit, and try to correct, just to educate potential visitors on what's happening out there. So it's a hard balance. But we're working on an open for business campaign that's ready to roll out. So if a disaster happens, and I mean, we even saw it with Fiona, where the eastern part of the island, suffered more damage, but there's people in other parts of the island that are saying, we're open, we're ready for business, but nobody's coming. And so you do have to balance that. And some people will say, well, that's a little tone deaf, but there's people that this is their livelihood at the same time. So you have to balance that, being sensitive to the emergency, but understanding that people are trying to run a business.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely some practical things that if, folks at places like Tourism Nova Scotia could do, even if it was to message out to operators in unaffected areas, here's some ideas that you might want to do ahead of, because there's this disaster going on in another place. So, yeah. No, great point. Any other questions?
Yeah, just what tweaked my interest, Terry, is that the extra one-day stay that would accumulate to, or add up to $125 million. So any kind of indication there, or any kind of ideas on how to extend that and get that extra day for visitors? Or
Yeah, and one of the things we'll be creating more content that educates people on everywhere there is to go around the island. We'll be looking at some of those tour operators that I mentioned. We'll be bringing them in on familiarization tours so they can understand, what there is in this part of the island and so forth. So it's a multifaceted approach, but it basically takes a lot of work, a lot of messaging. And there's probably need for some new investment too. Sometimes it's giving people compelling reasons why they want to come to other parts of the island.
I mean, where my mind goes, Terry, and being in the tourism industry myself, I think of package deals. You know what I mean? Like when we look at this county, for example, there's almost a festival every week in the summertime, right? So, trying to have the mentality and having the approach that, it could be complementary and not competitive. I know everybody's fighting for a piece of the pie or whatever, right? But if things could be complementary instead of competitive, to say, we're having this festival this week, and next week it's a festival in Almadam, and the following week it's one in Lodwez and one in St. Peter's, and put package deals together to the point where maybe a visitor gets the tail end of one festival and the beginning of the following festival, and you extend that stay by 1 day, right? So that's, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Warden, and thank you, Terry. I think we'll have to leave it there for questions for this evening. Really appreciate you coming in, and your presentations are always spectacular and make me feel warm and fuzzy about the place we live. Love that you include pictures of places like Lenore Farge and the Bredor Lakes Inn, too. That's very meaningful to us, so appreciate your time.
There will be more coming, so just so you know. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, next item on our agenda is presentation from Tyler Mathis with the Cape Breton Partnership, and I believe he's bringing along some folks with him. But Tyler, I'm going to leave it to you to introduce if you have others in your crew that you wanted to shout out to.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Warden. And I'm joined online in a minute here with Aileen Murray from Miller Murray Consulting, one of the two consultants that worked on our Forward Together strategy, of which you have a copy, I believe, in your electronic packages as well as hard copies at your desks here. We are excited to follow our partners, Terry Smith and DCBA, our Destination Cape Breton, old habits die hard. It's a great partner, and I think complementary to the strategies, and Terry and his team have been excellent advocates of that industry in particular, and we wouldn't be able to move forward without their partnership. So I have a few topics here today. I will kind of start this discussion and end it. And in the middle, Aileen Murray, who, like I said, was one of our excellent consultants on this strategy. We'll talk a little bit about that strategy, a little bit about our regular reporting, who I believe this chamber had a briefing from Martin when he was with our partnership team, but still part of our larger team. We're happy to collaborate with your staff here, as well as a bit on the staff, some of which are in the room supporting the work in Richmond County, and an updated multi-party agreement that we've been working on with the Liaison Oversight Committee. So first, the Forward Together plan, the vision is there, the mission is there. This came out of a lot of work that started with pre-pandemic. And so it was almost ready to go, and then March happened. And so this actually was a welcome pause, though. It would have been quite useless to have a strategy delivered just before that happened to our communities. And so now we were able to take that data and move forward with Aileen and David Campbell from GPIA. And we were really excited to do that with them. We work collaboratively, of course, the Cape Breton Partnership, not only with the Regional Enterprise Network that's supported consistently with Richmond County, but also with many of the people in the Strait of Canso region, as well as the private sector folks. This strategy really is not about the Cape Breton Partnership. It's not as much even about the Cape Breton Regional Enterprise Network. It's about a group of like-minded organizations and leaders across this island moving forward together, including Destination Cape Breton, as you saw earlier. This strategy is guided by these 6 guiding principles, and what that means is that as we had these discussions with our consultants in small community halls and in council chambers and with people, these things really bubbled to the surface. So collaboration in community, something common to our communities, and some of these themes you'll remember from Doug Griffiths talking with us at Petit Gras last year. Relationships and reconciliation being extremely important, energy and optimism. Something that our board really focused in on was a need to be optimistic. Inclusion and diversity, and people and environment very working together as things that are necessary prerequisites for our success. And then innovation and creativity, something that we've already had our oars in the water with, not only with the MIT REAP process, but with other things that we see in communities across this island every day. And so with that, I'm going to turn over to Aileen. Aileen, I think you can hear us online. I hope so. Maybe.
Yes, I can. I just have to hit the unmute, and I'm here.
Perfect. So Aileen, I'll move the slides as you want to discuss and introduce yourself, and it's over to you. Perfect. For the next a little bit.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Tyler. And I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I do love spending time with Cape Breton, but just wasn't possible for this presentation. But I did want to jump right into the next slide, Tyler, please.
There you go.
We have, there are 6 strategic pillars that I will be walking you through, and related with and underneath those 6 strategic pillars, there are 22 actions, and many of them have multiple components. So it's quite a comprehensive strategy. There's a lot to chew on here, but they all fall in line with those principles that Tyler talked about. And you'll find that there's actually quite a bit of correlation with the tourism presentation that you just saw, which I think is an excellent sign that we're all working in the same direction. So when it comes to people, we certainly recognized, as you heard in the tourism presentation, that there are not enough young people entering the workforce to replace those that are retiring, and there's certainly not enough to support the sector growth opportunities that we see for the region. So the goal under the people area is to have a population that is growing and focus that growth on workforce development. So when we're doing the attraction work, we're really focusing on developing and attracting talent that aligns with the demand that is there. So some of the highlights, I obviously don't have time to walk through all of them, but some of those actions include attracting and retaining newcomers and young talent, cross-promotion and collaboration online with the other partners that are in this space, establishing targets for population and workforce demand, doing sector-specific workforce development plans, including in the tourism sector, but certainly not restricted to that, working closely with post-secondary institutions to identify programs that will meet that local demand, and then partnering with First Nations to identify their skill needs and address any gaps in the workforce. And then we can go on to the next slide. So the second pillar then is inclusion, and developing an economy that works for everyone was a really important consideration in the strategy. We want to make sure that there's greater participation and an economic benefit for all individuals who live in the Cape Breton area, including those that are currently underrepresented and marginalized. So this is really that focus on equity and inclusion and finding ways to boost household income and reduce poverty by providing opportunities to find employment and position those underrepresented and marginalized people to best benefit from the economic opportunities that are in the region. So we'll be identifying target groups with low participation in workforce development, educating employers on the benefits and the process for hiring immigrants, and collaborating with First Nations communities to address those skills gaps in the workforce. We can go on to pillar 3, which is reconciliation. And the goals for reconciliation are really about using economic development partnerships as a tool for reconciliation, working with First Nations and communities to achieve what are their economic development goals. And so this pillar is about the formalizing that working relationship between the settler-led communities and organizations and representatives of the Mi'kmaq communities. We want to explore opportunities with the Potawatomi Nation to join the other 4 Mi'kmaq communities that are part of the CBREN, and to overall just expand engagement with First Nations and Indigenous communities in all of the economic development activities. The next pillar is about building strong communities and making sure that there's capacity throughout the region to support economic activity. So that's strengthening the economic development population's retention and related infrastructure development at the community level. So some of those actions are supporting economic development at the municipal level, making sure that there's capacity across the island, working to support municipal housing development plans, because we know how important the housing piece is to supporting workforce development. We want to take a look and support the municipal economic development infrastructure plans beyond housing. What are those other infrastructure pieces that need to be in place if the community truly is going to be investment ready? And then working on local service attraction and retention. And we know that childcare and healthcare and those other local services are very important to residents and prospective residents, and therefore to employers who are looking at workforce and workforce needs. Establishing and maintaining a network of economic hubs and service centers so that there is a place where across the region there are places where this activity is happening. We want to look at the post-secondary education network and make sure that there are touch points across the region again where education and research is happening. Making sure that that communities across Cape Breton are welcoming, that there are people attraction efforts, and there are supports for newcomers to the region and newcomers to the country. And finally, under investment readiness, providing investment ready assessments, establishing protocols for how we deal with prospects, and working with First Nations to attract local services and commercial activity, and then facilitating regular meetings for local and regional economic development partners. So in the next pillar is entrepreneurship and business growth. And that is making sure that we have a culture across Cape Breton that supports entrepreneurship and also the development and growth of high quality companies. So in that pillar, we're looking at developing the oceans opportunity further, supporting the tourism sector activity, leveraging the opportunities that are arising as a result of energy transition, building on the strengths of traditional industries that have been in the Cape Breton area for a long, long time, but also supporting the entrepreneur and startup development network and ecosystem so that we can build tomorrow's pillars. And finally, developing sector-specific investment attraction plans, and again, that harks back to the discussion about tourism just moments ago. The final pillar then is innovation and ensuring that Cape Breton provides a resilient, progressive economy, and we do that in a number of ways. Supporting innovation and productivity with the development organizations such as the Richmond Center and Federation of Agriculture and many others. We expand rural access to capital. Innovation doesn't have to happen just in the urban centers, and there's lots of really fantastic work that is happening in the rural areas, but they need that capital investment to make it come forth or to realize the true opportunity. Connecting local businesses and sector-specific partners with opportunities for innovation, so connecting them into that innovation network is an important role through the strategy. Leveraging and partnering with the research that's happening in post-secondary education, and finally ensuring that Cape Breton benefits from the research and innovation that's happening in Halifax, but should be across the entire province. So that was a very, very quick run through, and I'm sure there'll be some questions later, but I've tried to give you a bit of a highlight of what is involved in the strategy, and I will turn it back over to Tyler.
Thanks, Aileen, and I'll go through a bit more, Warden and Council, and happy to take any questions as you may have today or otherwise. And so we are really pleased to be here. We were pleased to present this to the Liaison Oversight Committee, as I mentioned, made up of the senior administrative and political leadership of all the First Nations and municipalities of the CB-REN. And so some of the next steps we have moving forward is our business plan. So that is 95% done, ready to go to the board at the next board meeting of the CB-REN. And then this presentation is the first of presentations to all of the municipal councils of the CB-REN, and followed thereafter, after elections are done, with our First Nations neighbors to present this as well. And then the development and deployment of an implementation workbook. That's something new that we've decided to do. You can see an early draft there on the visual. The idea of that is to we're working on a funding application now. It'll involve another person, is to take this pretty dense document and take it to sewing clubs, to Lions clubs, to community centers across as we can over the year and say, this is a document that you can use. This isn't a Cape Breton Partnership document or necessarily a Richmond County document, but what can you do to help guide your activities in your community? How can your other organizations work with you on your plans? Can you use this strategy as a guide to your boots on the ground activities or perhaps to a funding application yourself? Then the idea is to have that person revisit those communities after some time, say, hey, how's it going? Not expect them to give a report card, but help them move along. And that way we believe we'll truly be able to use this as moving forward together and not just as individual organizations. Our thought is that this ties back to the work that was done with the Prosperity Framework well before my time, but certainly that laid the groundwork for some of the success we're able to enjoy right now. In the next few minutes here, I'll touch a little bit on reporting and information, as well as the staff that are serving to you in your efforts, and the updated multi-party agreement. There you have the cover of the to-be-finished economic development business plan for us, and like I said, to be released after acceptance by the board. The AGM slated tentatively for early April, to be determined after we discuss with our partners, such as Troy and Amanda, and that is a requirement of our provincial funding partner. And so that's something that has been not quite achieved in years past, and so we're working to achieve that as part of our agreement with our provincial partners. And the information activity reports, we plan to have them quarterly, as have been discussed with Martin at the previous time. For staff, there's a great big green circle for the to-be-determined new economic development officer for Richmond County, Town of Port Hawkesbury, and that person will be starting next week. Rochelle Sampson has agreed to be part of our team, and we're excited to have her. And that was a great discussion with her and the CAOs as we made that decision collaboratively. And so we're probably signing that employment contract tomorrow. So I guess we're live now, so we've made it real. But building off that, you'll see there, we're excited to work with Martin continually as he's established excellent rapport with this community and his work with this county and with Town of Port Hawkesbury. And we have in the room Carly Appleton on our team in the Strait area, as well as Jen McNeil and Jeremy Martell, as no strangers to this council. So we're excited to work with them and the other folks you see on this team. In particular, our people and labor force team, as brought up by Terry. That's something we're leaning into, and I think we're able to move the needle on some of those workforce shortages, such as the 4,000 that he highlighted earlier. And last, an updated multi-party agreement. This was presented and has come after many iterations. The previous agreement lasted until this last year. And we're proposing and have approval from the LOC to move forward to each council, such as yourselves. The copy is in your package. But essentially, this explicitly enables the addition of future partners. As Aileen alluded to, the strategy encourages us to work forward, in particular with our friends at Baudeladeck, and those conversations have been started. And also, of course, to our provincial government, who would be the other half of that funding arrangement. It references the strategy you just heard the highlights of as the economic development strategy of the CB-REN, and commits to a 5-year engagement with the Cape Breton Partnership to deliver these services with a 36-month requirement to exit. We have never increased our funding over the time that we've been working with you and others. We're proposing a 5% increase to cover those previous years that we've had, and a CPI increase with that contract annually moving forward. Those are the highlights of the changes. Happy to discuss specifics, but we're very pleased with the outcome and look forward to it being ratified by our councils throughout the CB-REN and implementing the Forward Together strategy, which is also a 5-year strategy and allows us in particular, and I'll end with this, we are excited to have a longer-term funding arrangements with our partners, specifically for our ability to attract talent and keep them, and pay them an annual CPI increase in their salaries. And so that's of utmost importance to us, but we believe that that has a follow-on effect of a strategy that can be implemented effectively and fulsomely and work with our partners over the next coming years. So I think I'm a bit over my 15, so I'll stop there.
You're just about on there, Tyler, so thank you very much. So I'm going to ask councillors if they have any questions. I would like to, of course, start by saying a huge congratulations to Rochelle. Signed or not signed, we're excited to have her become part of your team and by extension part of our team. I think she's obviously no stranger to our municipal council, so I'm really excited about that. I would also want to congratulate you on the collaborative focus on your whole presentation. Obviously, what's happening with Forward Together and even the workbook. You mentioned groups that are sitting here in the room this evening that you're working with. Whether it's Lions Clubs or Destination Cape Breton Association, and I think that really. That really goes a long way because it strengthens all of the work that you do. So thank you for that. And councillors, do you have any questions? No? Okay. So I guess at this point, you'd be looking for a couple of motions from us this evening, Tyler, is what I'm understanding, that you'd like an endorsement for the Liaison Oversight Committee to accept the plan as the economic development strategy of the CBREN, and then also move to commit to aligning Richmond County's economic development efforts with Forward Together. And that's the kind of the note that we've discussed here. So would something to that effect be appropriate at this time? And I'll get you to press your button. And
Thank you for that reminder. Yes, that would be excellent. We enjoy a productive working relationship with the LOC, but I think it wisely deferred the final decision to each individual council, and I think ensuring we have we're armed with those specifics would help all of our partners, the province included, and. I will point out too that this endorsement is something we are bringing to our provincial partners. I want to be clear, they have not yet committed to a 5-year funding formula. It's in working with my fellow CEOs across the province. It is something we want a united front on, and we have an increased number of RENs committing to multi-year contracts in an effort to show value across the province and request that the province do the same thing. They have been excellent partners coming to the table every year, but nonetheless, it's not a multi-year, and so with the endorsement of the CBRENs participating First Nations and municipalities, we plan to extend our employment contracts to 2 years instead of 1, and should our other funding partners match your commitment, we'll be then able to offer longer terms after that.
yeah, I remember it well. Staff retention on a 1-year cycle, it's really difficult. Okay, so councillors, we can discuss this motion. I'm wondering, to get it to the floor for discussion, if I could have a mover that the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council to endorse the LOC's acceptance of the Forward Together plan as the economic development strategy of the CBREN, and further move to commit to aligning Richmond County's economic development efforts with Forward Together. Could I have a motion to that effect? And then we'll open for discussion once it's on the floor. Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Digdon, could I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Melanie Sampson. So, discussion, councillors. Any questions? Councillor Sampson.
So what you're asking here, would this lock us into that 5-year commitment?
And I'm going to hand this maybe back over to you, Tyler, but this is an endorsement to bring it forward to the province, because really there's not going to be a commitment until we know that the province would be committed as well. But Tyler, maybe I'll ask you to comment.
So this first motion is for the strategy, Councillor, but I can answer the question for what I anticipate to be the second motion. Yes, in effect, it would. It would be a 5-year commitment. So all other leaders of the other members of the CBREN have agreed at the LOC, but it does have to go to each council for ratification. And the idea is, yes, for a 5-year commitment, but it's a 3-year out clause. So should we not perform, a notice can be given, and we have 3 years to pick up our socks and make sure we deliver. And that's what we think is an adequate time frame for us to be able to work forward together, ironically, as it were. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Counselor Sampson, does that answer your question? Yeah, okay. Any other questions from counselors, concerns? Counselor Miller?
I mean, I always have concerns when we're locking future councils into commitments that are financial in particular. So I just,
Yeah, I understand. I guess I would say that's generally been the business of council, though. We've done the same thing on fire services and with other, types of contracts as well. And I know it's a little uncomfortable, but it's part of the job is that long-term planning, I guess. And we can only, do the best we can do with the information that we have, I think is yeah. Any other questions? Or Tyler, yeah?
I can respond a bit. It is, I completely understand that, and I think it's something we'll have I would hope all councillors and all councils would ask the same question. We feel like the previous iteration also transcended a municipal election, and we felt, as we struck this balance, and we discussed it a lot with my colleagues across the province, the 5-year is a long time. The 3-year was to ensure that is within a municipal election cycle, and to ensure that it's not circumventing that process. So.
Thank you. I forgot where that 3-year piece came from, but that's exactly what that was. Okay. Any other questions from councillors? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, so the motion is carried with 1 nay vote. And the next motion, I think, that's being sought from this presentation would be that the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council to agree to sign the multi-party First Nations and municipal agreement as endorsed and recommended by the CBREN Liaison Oversight Committee. So this is particular to the agreement, and that's the suggested motion at this point. If councillors feel that they would like more time to think about that and review the document, we can certainly move that to in the council meeting coming up at the end of the month, if you'd like to have a little bit more conversation. So you can, maybe I'll just do a quick check-in, and Councillor Digdon, would you like to do that now, or?
Yeah, no, I think I'd like to wait till later.
Yeah, I'd prefer to wait.
Okay, so we'll pop that one to the next meeting, Tyler.
If I may, we also were planning to be at Port Hawkesbury Council on Monday, and actually Victoria County Council that same day, and then Inverness mid-July. And so we don't have the First Nations discussions yet planned, but so you'll have plenty of other discussions to review at that time. Yeah.
It's a process, right? It's, one step at a time. No, that sounds great, and I think too. I know you noted in the presentation that's a straight area development officer. So our contribution to the CBREN, just for folks' recollection, is that we share that contribution with the town of Port Hawkesbury, and as a result, the development officer. So yeah. Okay, exciting times. Well, look, this is obviously a ton of work gone into this, and I really appreciate you taking the time, and the staff too, to be coming in to chat with us this evening. And yeah. I guess we'll hopefully be in touch with you very shortly.
Thank you, Warden.
All right.
Thank you, Council.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. So the next item on our agenda, we've got an extra presentation this evening. We had an opportunity come up from the Lewisdale Lions Club. So Tommy Sampson, I'm going to ask you to come to the table. Thank you for for sending along that presentation, and I'm glad we were able to make this timing work. I know you're just getting settled there, so I'll give you a minute. Tyler will collect his phone, and then we'll hand things over to you. Whenever you're ready, Tommy, you can just press the red button.
I believe that's on there. Well, thanks so much for the time with council, and obviously with all these partners, this is a great opportunity. I'm here on behalf of the Lewisdale Lions Club, and what we're looking at doing is developing our waterfront property. So the presentation we've put together basically provides a little bit of history of the club and some things that we've been doing in the past and things that are currently ongoing with our organization and things we're looking at in the future. So we've been a Lions community since 1969 in the community of Lewisdale. Over the span of that time, We've had over 500 volunteers in the last 55 years. And we're still active. We have been active, and we continue to be active, and we hope we'll be active 20 and 25 years from now. We started our first project in 1969 with the Richmond Arena, and then 2 years after that we started the recreational complex, which is now known as Project 71, and that became the heart of the community of Richmond, of Lewisdale, for 35 years. And I have very fond memories of that particular facility and that site with baseball fields and tennis courts, and we had an outdoor pool at the time, and change rooms and washrooms and a main facility, and announcer booths and canteens and the whole 9 yards. And essentially that particular recreational space was a space to gather. And so as we move forward, our community expressed an interest in sidewalks. And so as part of that particular initiative, the Lewisdale Lions Club donated $100,000 towards that project. And there you can see a picture of some former members of the club presenting that check to, I believe, the former warden, if I remember correctly. And I also threw a note on this slide that we have I think it's called the Boy Scouts of Canada building. It's a Western red cedar building on, I don't know the name of the island, but it's an island off of Almadam. And that cabin was built over 25 years ago, and it has been vacant now for the better part of 15 to 20 years. And so we were approached way back when by the owners of that organization due to just reduced enrollment with the Boy Scouts. They were at the risk of losing the facility, and so we paid the remaining balance on the mortgage so that that facility would stay for the Boy Scouts of Canada, but owned here in the county. And so we've got some potential future plans with that as well. Moving forward, our community wanted social events, which it's great to hear about these different things being talked about and presented. One of the things they asked for was song circle opportunities, and so we created that space at the Lewisdale Lions Community Center, and they also asked for informal settings where young performers and senior performers could kind of get their start and have an age-friendly space. This is one of the places where our famous Isabella Sampson kind of took her first steps as a singer-songwriter, and so we're quite proud of that. The community also wanted concerts, so there was a time in our village where variety concerts were a thing that was quite regular, and we had gotten away from that for quite a while, so we started running those again, a Christmas concert, a variety concert. We incorporate performers from all over the county, and of course, one of the showcase performers is our famous Nick the Pick Boudreau, world-class talent, and Mr. Robert Bouchard. And so we bring all these people together, and we get incredible feedback from people who attend this, and they love the ambiance it creates and the feelings they get as they go into the holiday season, and they look forward to it every year. So this is basically a poster where we organized a country and folk music concert with Robert Bouchard and Isabella Sampson, and we have a singer-songwriter resident in Lewisdale, Mr. Tyler Shea, and so we had the three of them showcased, and that was also very well attended, very well supported. Then we had our community push a little bit more, wanting concerts outdoor, and so we partnered with Richmond Recreation and getting concerts by the sea happening there, and again, extremely well attended on our waterfront property, which is kind of the piece of property we're looking at developing here in the future. Our communities asked for some beautification. Once we got the sidewalks implemented, they wanted some color, and so as part of that color theme, flowers was the request. And I'm not a green thumb person, but we clearly have people in the community that somebody is green thumb. That photo was taken actually on October 3rd, so it's quite late in the season. So I'm not sure what they put in the mix for the Miracle Grow, but it's some good stuff. So yeah, we do flower beautification, and we've set it up in our village as a memorial project. And so community members can sponsor a basket in memory of. And then on the light poles, we put the memorial notes of who they're in memory of. And so that is also a project that the community very much looks forward to. And moving on, we've got our community cleanup days. So that usually happens second week of May, third week of May. where we get residents from within the community of all ages. Our youngest recruit was 3 years old. That's him in the ditch, and his younger sister. And then we have people up as high as 84 that we know of who've learned to work smarter. They bring a big long pole with a nail on the end of it or a spike, and rather than go down into the ditches with rubber boots, they poke the garbage from a distance and pick it up, and they get the kids to pull it off those spikes and put them in the bag. So it's a great community project. At the end, we all gather at the waterfront property and we have a barbecue, and we usually have residents that show up with coffee from Tim's and the whole 9 yards, and it's a fantastic project. So as part of our group, we encourage and recognize volunteers of all ages, and these are just some photos kind of demonstrating that at our 50th anniversary charter night, and there's a wide range of age groups in there. I'm not going to highlight ages because I've been warned not to. We bring community together with barbecues at the waterfront property, and that property also gets used by the community parish, and they do barbecue fundraisers there as well. And so that's quite a popular event, and a staple event actually during the summer. We try to coordinate those barbecues with the outdoor concerts that are put on by the county. And so people come out a little bit early, it was great to hear the idea of aligning events and combining events, so that kind of fell in line with that. We're continuously learning and developing new skills. Online meetings are not foreign to me, but I will tell you that pretty much everyone else in that photo, they're all newbies, including my dad there in the bottom middle row. You can see how engaged he is, God love him. And so, we have a group of hardworking volunteers who are, they've gone through some growing pains to try and keep things going through COVID and to continue working and planning and supporting community and needs and all of that stuff. We started an annual Chili Fest event and to bring businesses and community together. And so we incorporated a couple of new members. Of course, when COVID happened, we had an influx of people moving from Ontario and different parts of the country. And two of the new members that joined the group were from Ontario. And one of them had a background with recreational planning, and she's just a think tank. And so she put together this idea of Chili Fest, her and her husband. And when they first proposed it to us, we were thinking, oh, I don't know. But it's change. And so they saw something that we couldn't see because we live here all the time. And they were looking through a lens that we just didn't have the advantage to look through. And it was a huge success. We brought in performers from all over Richmond County, and those performers gratefully and graciously donated their time. And so we had music going on for 6 hours, and 10 different restaurants that showed up and prepared their own little special chili concoctions, and there were sampling cups, and people stayed, some of them for 4 hours, chatting and sampling chili over and over and over and over. And so it was a really great event. And this is just more photos from the Chili Fest, and you can see, like I said, the variety. We did create a mascot for that event, which she's still quite resentful of, because we didn't have our heat pumps in at the time, and so yeah, she was quite warm. We also host monthly community breakfasts, which it's the last Sunday of every month, and we have a pretty enthusiastic group organizing that as part of their portfolio. So now the breakfasts are themed in terms of, this is an example of the ugly Christmas sweater breakfast. And so Christmas themed and ugly Christmas sweaters, and we have Halloween themed breakfasts and all kinds of stuff. Our breakfasts now are exceeding 200 people coming in, starting at 8 and running till 11. And we have people, actually faithfuls we call them. They consistently show up at 8:15 from Marguerite and Shetty Camp and Port Hood and Mabu, and they come out as a group of couples, and then they have breakfast in our venue, and then they continue to kind of head around Richmond County for some different events during the day. So it's a great thing to draw people in and drive traffic to other places. Again, more breakfast picks, some Halloween costumes, and some of the costumes are very appropriate, and some of them are maybe less. But the community thrives on it, so it always works out nice. We're also very active in participating in other initiatives led by other organizations. So this This is the fall fair, the second most recent fall fair. That was something that was a staple event in our community for many, many years, and then it had been dropped by the wayside. And there's a younger group of women in our organization or in the community, and they started the Ladies Auxiliary. I know there's a much more formal name, but I call them the Ladies Auxiliary. And they headed this initiative back up, getting the Fall Fair Parade back in place. And so we participated in that, put in a float, got some costumes for the Lions mascots and all that stuff. And we put some of our senior-most members on the float. And it took us a while to get them on the float and off the float. But they were troopers. And they were fantastic. So some music and some great public relations. We host an annual tree lighting event at our waterfront property in December. So right now, that is hosted pretty much for families right across the county. We've got fireworks, Santa picks, we've got gifts handed out, campfire music, music coming out of the back of a truck, Jingle Bell Walk, and the list goes on. The gifts that are given, if you can see Mr. and Mrs. Claus in the photos, she actually hand makes 200 gifts every year. Some of it's sewn, some of it's crafts, and we purchase some coloring books and some crayons and different things. And so we make sure that every child that shows up leaves with a gift, and of course some hot chocolate and some hot dogs and all that fun stuff. But that's also a great event in the community, and the community looks forward to it. And we have quite a few people attending from outside of our community of Lewsdale, but various parts of Richmond County. We make every attempt and every effort to build partnerships with our youth. So this was a recent renovation project for our shed, our storage shed, which had fallen into a bit of a decrepit state. So our first step was to minimize the bleeding. So we put on a new roof, and then we solidified any of the water damage inside. And then we enlisted students at the high school to help with the process of residing, students involved with skilled trades technology and construction tech. And so that project was also very successful. The kids had a fantastic time. They installed windows and garage doors, and they were involved with scaffolding training and fall protection and all of that fun stuff. So it was great. And the training they got for this was from a local entrepreneur with Strait Area Safety Services. So it worked out fantastic. And of course, we're resourceful. We don't like to throw anything away, and we don't waste any opportunities. So when La Cuisine Acadienne closed, and I actually don't know how many years ago it closed, but it's been a while. They tore the building down, I think it was 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I can't remember. But there was a deck in the back of this facility. It was a massive deck, and it was all pressure treated, and whoever had built this particular structure had really done a great job with the underground work. And so there was absolutely no rot on this deck. And so the concern was, when you see an excavator on the property with a claw, you're looking at the value of that deck in today's market, and you're seeing, a $25,000 tag. And so the woman who owned this donated it to us. So of course, in a very informal way, we stopped traffic coming both ways in a school zone, and we floated the deck down to the waterfront property. And then we chopped it up, and I've got a few photos there coming up. But we had community members who own tractors come out. Cart Sampson was one of them with the skid steer, Brian Marchand with his tractor, and then there's another smaller tractor there as well. And we chopped this up to fit around our current facility, recycling the actual deck, restoring the deck, and then providing kind of a new home and a new space. And you can see all the safety equipment that the senior members of our community use. You can see the sandals and the shorts and the chainsaw as a precision tool. As I move forward, you can't make this stuff up. It is what it is. Yep. You question it, but at the end of it, this thing came together. It's just a fantastic project. And so as people saw this stuff happening, they stopped. They drove by, they stopped, they offered help. Do you guys need help? Do you need assistance? Can we help out? And so at the end of it, we had over 30 people involved with kind of repiecing this together and giving it a whole new life. So it was a great project. And so the end result was we had a wraparound deck on the building up by the road, and then we have a performance stage deck down on the bottom, which was also part of the original deck. And so we gave both of them a new life. And the couple you see in the corner down there is a couple from Quebec. They were traveling, touring Cape Breton Island, and they had got as far as Lewisdale coming through. They were on their way to Almadam, and their car broke down. And so they stopped, they called CAA, and anyway, they got their vehicle picked up, and it was brought back to Port Hawkesbury, and the gentleman who picked the vehicle up said, well, if you guys are looking to just have a picnic, there's a place in Lewisdale where you can stop. And so they showed up, and they were all French, and they chatted with us for a bit, and then they just held hands and walked down, you know, late 70s, walked down to the water, sat at the picnic table, and they sat for the better part of 4 hours while their vehicle was repaired. And so had we had more to offer on this property, vendor booths, things like that, they may have spent more money. So this brought us one step closer to where we want to be. And while all of that was happening, we collected eyeglasses, CPAP machines, pop can tabs for wheelchairs, provided Meals on Wheels service. We ran Father's Day events with annual donations of $1,500 to both the Straight Richmond Hospital and the St. Anne Centre. We helped with medical needs in the community and outside of our immediate community all across Richmond County. We provided space for cadet programming. We have Canada Summer Jobs for student employment. We offer bursaries for high school graduates. We maintain a lift chair program for seniors across Richmond County who are in need. We fundraised for families in need. We held meetings. We renovated facilities. And we recently provided space for and signed a 20-year lease agreement with our local food bank. And the list goes on and on. I would have had more members with me tonight, but they are actually catering a meal for the international students and their host families. And it is what it is. So they couldn't make it. So this is the property we're talking about. This is its current state. It's on Seal Cove Harbor. Beautiful, beautiful place. Very serene. And that's the current condition of it as it is right now. And this is the vision. This is what we're looking at. And so the lower level of this property will become an outdoor amphitheater, and the upper level will become where you can see those people walking. There's kind of a flat space there where we can set up for washer toss and ladder ball and things like that. And along the left-hand side of the property, you can see 3 vendor booths where we're hoping to encourage local artisans to bring their stuff out whenever there's events hosted here. And then the facility that you see there now is the current facility, but we're not looking at keeping that. So we've advertised this at our breakfasts since January of 2024. We post this as kind of as a running loop at our breakfasts. And so our commitment so far for this property, in 2022, we transported and restored the deck. So estimated value at that time was 15 grand. With the current cost of and rate of inflation, I think it's somewhere around 25 now with the cost of lumber. We had machine time donated from both Cart Sampson and Brian Marchand to relocate those pieces and put them all in place. In 2023, we had an expenditure of almost $50,000 to complete our shoreline protection, so armor stone and aggregate, basically preventing the erosion of the property because we were losing quite a bit at the end of every winter. And then in 2023, we had concept drawings done, which you've just seen, for the waterfront project, and we paid for those as well. And then in 2024, if the funding is allocated, we're going to be donating our current facility to the Barishaw Trail Association. So we've already been in contact with the kind of the lead organizer there, Dwayne, and they will be using that facility for trail maintenance equipment and development. So that building is 16 by 24. It's got full wiring, full insulation, cupboards, all of that stuff. The estimated value for the facility is $25,000, but our goal is to keep that within, an organization that is building community. And the Barishaw Trail Association was really excited to hear about that.
We're just getting a little short on time.
Yep.
And I know you're almost at the end.
Yep. Yep. This is the new facility plans, which is constantly changing. We just got the quote for the elevator that we're adding into this to make the building barrier-free. That's $125,000. So it adds quite a bit, but we think it's worth it. It's a worthwhile investment. The rest of the park is barrier-free with full paved and all that stuff. So if you look at the kind of the layout of that, one of the things that's also going in is historical placards, which will speak of the history of the community. And it will also honor Alfred Sampson, who's kind of a longtime resident of Lewisdale and worked with the NHL pretty much his whole life. God bless his heart, he was a Montreal Canadiens fan. And And he made a lot of significant contributions to the community of Bluesdale, particularly the community homes and bringing back residents. And he's just he was an amazing person. And so in addition to all of that, we're putting solar system on the roof of this facility. And so we're going to try and minimize our costs so that as community groups would like to use it, we can minimize what the expenses are. And then within that, we're looking for a full ice cream vending station where we can provide an additional service to the community of Bluesdale and potentially employ another student through Canada Summer Jobs. So the estimated cost is $1.4 million with the quotes we've received so far. We've already got approval from EDPC for development on the property, so it falls within their lines. And so we're ready. Mike Kellaway is on board with this. We spoke with Mike. Trevor Bourgeois, MLA, is on board. Tim Houston has seen this presentation as well, and he was very excited about it. And so the asks that we're looking for from council, and it's not a decision obviously you need to make tonight because we haven't submitted our package yet, but we'd be looking for support in the amount of $20,000. And so we believe that it's time for some infrastructure development in Bluesdale, and we think that community piece of property, which is one of the only community-owned pieces of property in our village, is just an opportunity waiting to happen. And so looking down the road, we can see some boat tours leaving Seal Cove Harbor, heading out into the passage, running around some of the fishing grounds of Alma Dam. There's just an unlimited amount of potential with this property. So we're asking for your help and your consideration, keeping in mind that we know you have all kinds of asks coming across your plate. So I'll do my best to answer questions if you have any.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Tommy. So can you just explain to me what you mean by municipal-led projects? Do you mean that when you say the facelift, do you mean the streetscape and facade programs? Okay. Yeah. Okay. And that one was, I think, Arishat, and then years ago, St. Peter's wasn't municipal. St. Peter's was, it was the Regional Development Agency. No, it was the Regional Development Agency and the they're nonprofit group. Yes, Speedo. Thank you. Yeah. But same deal. Yeah, same deal. Okay, I just wondered if that's what you meant. So, councillors, do you have any questions for Tommy? Comments? I mean, it's a very thorough presentation. And by the way, good strategic choice in putting all those smiling faces and pictures of all the people participating in your presentation.
It's hard for me to find pictures where no one's smiling.
Right? And tons of people. I mean, and it's a great example of the way that the Lions clubs are able to bring people together. It's quite nice to see. It's really heartwarming. And I know that we do have a fund set aside through our CCBF funds for waterfront development. There's potential that we could consider that through this. It's part of our capital plan that we intend to potentially approve on Thursday evening at our special meeting.
I'll go through staff to find out.
Just pressed your button.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And I'll go through staff to find out what the proper channels are in terms of the application and how that's supposed to be submitted. It's just the numbers with this elevator expanded piece that it's changed things. So now we just got to include that into the package. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think we always have an appetite. This council generally has had a real appetite to support community initiatives. And, if you're looking for $20,000 to leverage $1.4 million, that's pretty impressive. So, that's new money into our communities. So, yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Melanie, did you want to? No?
No, just glad that we were able to squeeze you in today. When you sent the presentation, I just really felt it was something that the public should really see, not just us, because it's a very impressive presentation, and certainly the work the Lions have done over the years is not unnoticed by anybody in the county, I don't think. And just really looking forward to seeing the application and encourage you to do it, I would say sooner than later before we break for the summer, and then we can maybe allocate you some money.
All right. Thank you so much, Tommy. We'll leave it there. All right. Okay. So that brings our presentations to a close, and I want to thank everyone for your patience with that. We did have the extra presentation added in, but definitely I think it worth the time well spent. So the next item on our agenda is new business, and it's a Share the Road project. So we've received a memo from staff regarding, I guess, the the provincial initiative to look at sharing the road for off-highway vehicles so that they can access trails and services along designated road shoulders. And so it doesn't mean that riders can ride anywhere on the road. There was a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding around that when it first came out from the provincial government. That is not what it means. What happens is there is a process to allow road travel in approved locations, and the sites basically were provided to the government by ATVans, and they're actively gathering additional information. However, we had asked staff some time ago to look into how we make this happen in our community, because I know there are several hotspots for where people need to, or want to be able to access services when they're using OHVs, and I think it would be, I think we talked about it being part of like 12-month of the year tourism strategy and how we could generate additional economic spin-off there. Our staff has been in touch with the coordinator for ATVans, and it's looking like we need to have a bylaw in place to give access to municipal roads for OHVs when they want to access them. Now, that's specific to municipal roads. Most of our roads are provincial. However, there may be a need for this on some of our roads as well. So the idea would be to look for a motion to essentially defer this to policy and bylaw for future discussion. Councillor Brent?
Yeah, I'd be happy to make that motion. Thank you to Shannon for the work on this.
Okay, the motion's been made. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Melanie Sampson. Any further discussion on that item? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried, so please do extend our thanks to Shannon and team. Okay, the next item on the agenda is just the review of the Warden's Council report, so I provided that in your packages. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. I do want to just do a highlight of the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities webinar that I participated in. Myself, Mayor Pam Mood, and I believe it's Deputy Mayor Jeff Stewart from Colchester County participated on a panel called Insights in the Council Chamber, and it talked a little bit about our experience running and just both as from when we first time ran and then running again, and it's really designed to really generate interest in people running for municipal politics. So that's going to come out as a podcast a little later, so we'll be sure to share that along. Any other questions on the report? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the CAO operations report, and I'll just ask councillors if you have any questions, or CAO if there's anything in particular you'd like to mention. All of it?
I don't know where to begin, and I don't want to leave anybody out.
Okay. All of the report. Any questions for Troy on the operations report? Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have any, I know that right now you're working with BRELA and EDPC and legal to finalize that. Any idea on a timeline on?
Soon. Just last week, they did a final walkthrough, and the purchase sale agreement has been drafted by us, and it is in his legal's hands now for whatever comes out of that. But I would imagine before the end of June, we hope to have something in place.
All right. Thanks, Troy. Okay. Any other questions on the operations report? Okay. Next item on the agenda are community acknowledgements, and we always kick this off with our Volunteer of the Month. And our Volunteer of the Month this month, actually probably year or many years would be accurate. Our Volunteer of the Month is Robert Goyash. And so I'm just going to read off his nomination. It notes that over the past 10 years, Robert has been the president of the Fleur-de-Lis Seniors Club, leading and planning the execution of all the club's events. During this time, he's been instrumental in coordinating the club's ticket sales, bookings, and event promotions. Robert chairs the Straight Richmond Hospital Board and is the co-chair of the Seniors Take Action Coalition. He is the treasurer of the Lewisdale Lions Club and an active board member for the Lewisdale Community Homes. When he's not attending board meetings, he can often be found managing the rentals for the Lewisdale Lions Hall and lending a hand at their monthly breakfast, making delicious scrambled eggs. So please join us in recognizing Robert for his hard work, dedication, and commitment to his community. And certainly thank him for all he does for Richmond County. I know I've had many dealings with Robert in the past, and either through the Lions Club or through, some of the other activities that he's in charge of. So I know that his commitment runs deep. Any comments? So I don't know, Councillor Melanie, if you wanted to.
Of course I do. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be also a member of some of these committees with Robert over the years, and he's just a very steady guy, very community-minded, very, very humble about all of his involvements, and looking forward to presenting him with his plaque and token. As Tommy went through his presentation, you just see his face in so many of the pictures, and I think that's just reflective of what a great community member he is, and so deserving of the award.
Thank you, Councillor Melanie Sampson. I couldn't agree more. I would also like to acknowledge, I know Robert was part of the group that was helping to organize the Imagine the Possibilities conference, and I'd like to congratulate the entire organizing team on that conference. I was able to slide in and give some welcoming remarks before I went off to move furniture for my daughter, but no, it was a fantastic event, and what a crowd. It was just awesome. So congratulations to the organizing team there, and also want to congratulate all of the participants who came out to the silent disco on Saturday, June 1st, because that was pretty epic, and to our staff team for helping to organize it. It was our final event for Accessibility Awareness Week. And last but not least, and I don't know, Councillor Melanie, if you would want to chime in as well on this, but huge congratulations to all of the graduates from the Nova Scotia Community College. I attended their convocation ceremonies last week, I think it was. It feels like a long time ago already, but yeah, I mean, it was just a really, as all NSCC graduations tend to be, and particularly the Strait Area campus, it was an extremely moving event. I can never get away without shedding a few tears, and you could just see all the possibility and the ambitions of the future in those students who walk across the stage. So it's pretty impressive to see. I don't know, Councillor, if you wanted to add anything, but congratulations to everyone.
Of course, I'll add something. So as a faculty member at NSCC for almost 20 years now, the 20th graduation is just as awesome as the first graduation. I have to say it's a pretty special day. I always enjoy meeting people's families and seeing how proud they are of them, and rightfully so. And just, again, just seeing students, there are 4 major awards, and a student of our departments, a student of mine won 2 of the 4. And she's a pretty special lady, and it's nice to see her recognized. So, yeah. So,
awesome.
Congratulations to award winners and graduates alike, because I think for a lot of people, just graduating is a really wonderful accomplishment. So, congratulations.
Any other comments on those items or any other community acknowledgements? Okay. Looking at you, Deputy Warden.
I figured he would take the bait, but usually the deputy warden always has a good follow-up. So I'll, I guess in this time I'll take it from him. Just to acknowledge, École Beauport won the provincial softball championship this weekend in Lockport. It's the first time that they brought a banner back in, I believe, something like 15 years, and the last one was in volleyball. So pretty impressive. A big shout out, I think. Jack Bona from Lewisdale hit the walk-off home run to win the game in the bottom of the 7th inning. So it was pretty impressive. The boys and coaches and everybody played hard. So a shout out to all of them, and thank you for bringing the banner back to the island.
Back in Richmond County where it belongs, right? Okay. Any other community acknowledgements? Okay. All right, so hearing none, we're going to move on. And the next item on the agenda, we have several pieces of correspondence. And I'll start with the one from Jim Davis, who was the, I guess, former interim CFO, regarding the River Bourgeois Mariner Society for the Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Funds in the amount of $1,500. So I think at this point, because our budget hasn't been finalized, we have been deferring these to budget discussions. So I'd be looking for a motion to do so with this request as well.
I make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Melanie Sampson, for seconding the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is correspondence from Jeremy Carroll from Brela Homes regarding a request for financial support for building permitting fees. And I think, councillors, at this stage, again, because our budget is not completed, we'd be looking for the same type of motion to defer to budget.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that motion.
Councillor Digdon has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. The next item then, last but not least, is from Anne Levitt, Board Chair from the Almadam Historical Society, regarding a request to proclaim the week of September 23rd to 28th as Robert Bouchard and Cornelia Boucher Week. So this is not a financial request. It's just a request for the, I guess, a proclamation to occur. And I don't know, councillors, if anybody would like to make the motion to do so, but.
Sorry. I'll make that motion.
The motion's been made by Councillor Mike Digdon.
Oh,
I feel like I'm on Jeopardy. I'll second that motion, yes.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. So the motion has been made by Councillor Mike Digdon and seconded by Deputy Warden Sean Sampson to officially proclaim the week of September 23rd to 28th as Robert Bouchard and Cornelia Boucher Week. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion is carried. And Troy, maybe if it's okay with you, you could follow up with them and just see if there's anything official that they need, or, yep, that would be great. Okay. Oh, is it there? Oh, yeah, it is there. Oh, my gosh, okay. All right, sorry about that, guys. I guess I will read it. They're going to need it signed, though, is what I'm assuming. Yeah, okay. All right, so whereas Robert Bouchard and Cornelia Boucher individually and along with their former spouses and bandmates enhanced the lives of people here and abroad with their musical talents, whereas Robert Bouchard and Cornelia Boucher brought joy and set the standard for professionalism and superior quality for their peers and those that follow in their footsteps in the music industry. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Amanda Mumbercat, Warden of the Municipality of the County of Richmond, on behalf of Council, hereby proclaim September 22nd to 28, 2024 as Robert and Cornelia Week in Richmond County. So that's awesome. I would encourage the residents of Richmond County to acknowledge the contributions of these honorees by sharing positive messages either in writing or at public events during their designated week. It's a great idea. Let's flood some social media with some positive news, right?
I just wanted to mention, just because we're, in public session, is that they are going to have an exhibit opening on September the 22nd with community festivities and other wonderful things. So encouraging people to take that in. Yeah, I grew up up the road from Robert, so I've heard him sing live and in person so many times, and it's awesome.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Melanie Sampson. Any further discussion on that? Okay. So hearing none, we'll move on. For information purposes only, we have several pieces of correspondence. One is from the Eastern Zone Community Health Board team regarding connecting the dots to poverty. It's a school food infographic. It was interesting to hear, too, the provincial news today about, work towards school food program in the province. So I guess there's no action required on this, Troy, but I'm wondering if we could ask staff to share a little bit of that on our social media. The infographics are really well done, and I want to congratulate the team from the Health Board who put these together on a regular basis. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is a memo, or I guess a report from Martin Thompson. It's bigger than a memo, who's the manager of Energy Sector Development regarding the World Hydrogen Summit 2024. He put together this briefing note to give us a full, update on what he experienced and the lessons learned and outcomes from the conference. And Martin is here in the gallery today. I just want to thank you, Martin, for your work on that. It's it's extremely thorough, and I appreciate the fact that if we're investing funds to, to learn from people in other locations, that we get to see what those learnings are and take them in as a council as well. And I know that if any of us have, questions about the report, that Martin would be happy to answer them. Sure, did you want to come up to the, yep. And I'll just ask you to press your button when you speak.
I'll be very brief. I just wanted to say it was a real team effort on this report. It was, on the trip, we were part of a wider delegation, as the briefing note states, and kind of Tyler Mathis from Cape Breton Partnership, as well as Jason McMillan from the town of Port Hawkesbury. We really kind of approached this conference as a team and tried to kind of spread as wide a net as possible, and so the briefing note that have been shared was a real team effort. So I might have spearheaded it, but certainly it would not have looked the way it is and be as comprehensive as it is without the contributions from Tyler and Jason as well. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well said, Martin.
Oh.
And I appreciate that note, and glad to see that it was a collaborative effort. And I think, also very meaningful for the developers who are planning large-scale hydrogen production facilities here in Richmond County, for Richmond County to be present in a big way there. I think it sends a clear message to not just them, but to all of Canada and the world that we're in it to win it in the hydrogen production file. So thank you for your representation there. Okay, and the next item is the 2021-2022 Municipal Profile and Financial Conditions Indicator Report. Any questions on that item? It's just good to see things going in the right direction, so we'll leave it at that. And we'll move on with the revision to the agenda. The next item is for discussion is the review of checks issued for May 2024. Any questions on the review of checks? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. The review of action items is next. Any questions on the review of action items? Okay, hearing none on that, I'll move on to items added to the agenda. And the next item is Canada Post regarding rural delivery. And I want to thank Councillor Brent Sampson for bringing this forward to the attention of council, because I know we experienced some interruptions ourselves there in the last month. So over to you, Councillor.
So yeah, just in the briefing note, I had several months back, I saw it happening with some parts of District 5, especially Lordways, Grand River Falls, multiple areas like that had a lot of service interruptions around their mail delivery. So since then, things have gotten quite a bit better. There were some hiccups even after we thought it was solved. They seem to have some trouble maintaining staffing for delivery of mail. But now I'm hearing the issue is becoming a problem. Yeah, the Rockdale, Grand Grave area, even up Seaview, Oban areas, to be honest with you. A lot of it serviced from the St. Peter's Post Office. So my ask here was whether or not we could, as a council, ask Canada Post to send a representative in the future to meet with us at a council meeting so that we could ask questions and basically so the public could view that and get answers. Just because there's a lot of people getting left in the dark. Hearing stories, there was one person that they had a parcel, wasn't sent out. By the time they got to the post office, they said, oh no, it was here 4 days, we just returned it. But they had not gotten anything in the mail to say the parcel had arrived. So it's not business as usual with Canada Post, and I can understand some of the residents' frustrations with that. So I think it would be, if it were possible for Canada Post to send a representative here, just that we could ask some questions as to where they're at with their delivery and service delivery and what the plans are.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson, and I would 100% agree. I think part of the issue is there's no way for residents to know that there is even an interruption happening, right? And that's why you're missing potentially important documentation or parcel deliveries, that type of thing. So I guess, Councillor, you're making a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'll make that motion that we ask staff to reach out to Canada Post to send a representative to a future meeting.
Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mike Digdon. Or any further discussion? Sorry. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. So maybe we could leave that with you, Troy, and we'll help find an appropriate representative.
100%.
Together
We'll
we
dig into
can,
it.
yeah, we'll dig in, okay.
Thank you very much for that.
You, that's great. So the next item on the agenda is the 15-minute question period, as we're waiting for folks to either come from the gallery to ask a question or to call in to the number, which is 902-226-9885. I just want to do a quick shout out to Danielle, who is acting as our clerk today as part of our efforts at cross-training staff. And I know she's here with Shelley's guidance, and really think it's important that the county continues its work on business continuity and making sure that we have people to fill in gaps so people can take vacations or a sick day once in a while. So thank you, Danielle. This has been juggling with virtual, in person, all of the aspects of meeting have been in the meeting tonight. So trial by fire, right? All right. So any questions from the gallery? And I'm not hearing the phone ring. We'll just give it another minute or two. Well, 902-226-9885 is the number. Okay, so hearing no questions, I'm going to call the meeting adjourned. There's no further business to discuss. So thank you, everyone, for coming in, and thanks to those watching at home. I'm loving how full this gallery is tonight. We should have the partnership here every night.
Great job.